Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Ukrainian talk show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today we have distinguished guests, Professor Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you, Sasha. Glad to be here.
Great to have you as always. And Ivan Kucherenko from Kiev, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello, Sasha. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to be here as well.
Great to have you, Ivan. Can we start with the video that you have for us?
Sure, let's start with it.
Excellent. Let's see.
The annexation of Crimea by Russia, the Kremlin has tried to transform the Black Sea into a Russian lake, pumping it up with military personnel and weaponry. During just the first 7 years of occupation, the operational inventory of surface ships and submarines of the Black Sea Fleet increased by 45%. The number of Russian warplanes has more than tripled. The helicopter count has increased ninefold. The quantity of armored combat vehicles magnified sixfold, and of multiple rocket launchers, 6.5 times. The total missile volley of the Russian Black Sea Fleet reached 73 tons. The range of Russian sea-based missiles can cover the whole Black Sea area, half of Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, the whole of Moldova, and the south of Ukraine. In 2019, Russia blocked a quarter of the total Black Sea area, including the exclusive economic zones of Bulgaria and Romania. As of August 1, 2019, out of 100 caliber missiles that attacked Syria, 56 were launched by the Russian Black Sea Fleet, making occupied Crimea a military base for aggression against other states. Ukraine has warned many times about the threats that the temporary occupation of Crimea by Russia pose to the whole Black Sea region and the rest of the world. Ukraine-launched Crimea Platform has set forth a plan for peaceful reclamation of Crimea by political and diplomatic means.
No matter how much time passes, the crime of occupation will be punished. Respect for the UN Charter must be restored, and Crimea must be returned to Ukraine.
Back in 2022, Russia used Crimea as a base to expand its aggression, much like it used to do to any territory it seized before and after, including the ones occupied recently in Ukraine. Foreign ships regularly become victims of Russian mines. The Black Sea has also posed as the main maritime route used by Russia to resell goods plundered from Ukraine, including grain stolen from Ukraine, and piracy in international waters.
Speak English!
Just like it happened on August 13th, when the Russian Navy Black Sea Fleet fired warning shots at the Palau-flagged merchant vessel and boarded it, which was against the UN Charter, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and other norms of international law. The purpose of such hostile behavior is to create a sense that the whole Black Sea belongs to the Russian zone of influence. As long as Russia controls Crimea, no lasting peace is possible. The states of the Black Sea region must stop this kind of terror and prevent Russia from extending its aggression onto other territories in and beyond Ukraine. And the principal prerequisite for this is the deoccupation of Crimea and its return to Ukraine.
Ivan, thank you. It's a very, very good video. And obviously it is intention of Russian government is to create so many points around the world, boiling points, if you wish. So the West, specifically United States, sooner or later will feel overextended to fight Russians in every point. You see, not that Russian, from military point of view, presents any viable threat to the United States, not at all. But it just when so many small conflicts here and there, and the United States must react to them one way or another, whether it's diplomatically, whether it's diplomatic note, or maybe even bringing the army or like a fleet, like in case of Israel, for example. But I lately noticed that there is a lot of new activity happened between Serbia and Kosovo. And of course, Russian-backed Serbia which is a stronger country anyway, that will create another point of frustration for the West and for the United States. So when there are so many conflicts, you put together this one, Kosovo, Serbia, of course Ukraine, of course Israel, and possibly South against North Korea against South, of course, and possibly Taiwan. And forget about Africa, forget about many other conflicts like Yemen or Sudan or just anything. Jonathan, how U.S. can meaningfully neutralize this Russian attempts for disorder, military, diplomatic, around the world?
Well, the key, as I've mentioned several times on previous programs, the overall key for the United States is to develop a strategy of asymmetric response, not responding directly to each threat as it comes up, but strategia asymmetrическое реагирование, respond the way a chess player would, in the way creating new weaknesses which forces the opponent to respond to them, rather than us trying to meet each threat separately. Now, for us, in the current conflict, the real key, also, as I've mentioned several times, is the severance of the supply and reinforcement link between Russia and the Crimean Peninsula. That is very vulnerable potentially, and the Ukrainians are coming within striking range of being able to sever that logistical and reinforcement link, despite the ostensible failure, and I put that in quotes, of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It has not really failed in the sense that the Ukrainians have not been driven back from or are no longer approaching closer to severing the link between Russia and Crimea. That has been largely overlooked by Western observers. They still tend to underestimate or underplay the vulnerability of that logistical and reinforcement link between Russia and Crimea, and so it may well be possible within the next couple of months for the Ukrainians to in fact sever that link. Once that link is severed, that is an asymmetric response to Russia's current aggression in Crimea, and the Black Sea Fleet and the other forward elements of the Russian military bases in Crimea become exceptionally vulnerable, and that is the appropriate response, an appropriate logical response to the current Russian aggression based in Crimea, to sever its link and render it isolated and useless.
Mm-hmm. Ivan, the next question will be to you, and
your turn.
Well, Jonathan, for what you just said, it seems to me that there are two reasons, the main reasons, in my opinion, why the Ukrainian attack which started about June of this year and until now, which is now November. It was, let's say exactly what it is. It was unsuccessful, full stop, period. There is no playing with the words to say, well, it was not as successful as we hoped, or it was not in time, it was not really carried the way we all hoped for. No, it's unsuccessful so far. And there are two major reasons, in my opinion. One reason is that nobody anticipated how well Russians will prepare the Ukrainian attack, which is a minefield. And it's not like a minefield that you think, there are a few mines here and there. It's a minefield which never in history of war was ever created. Let's put it this way. Number two is a great delay in the weapons supplied from the West, specifically from the United States of America. And the two factors, one factor maybe could have been overcome, but the two factors, and both are against Ukraine. Ukrainian armed forces. These two factors could not be overcome. It's just too much. There is no F-16s. There were no ATACMS until lately, like a couple of weeks ago or so. Ivan, is there anything else that I missed?
No, actually, Sasha, you're completely right, because both Ukraine and our Western American partners, we underestimated the possibility of Russia to dig in to the occupied territories, because especially in the means of the minefields, they overwhelmed even their own principles and rules of the Soviet and Russian war doctrine about the density of mines upon a square kilometer, and it was overwhelmed several times. And of course, our troops were not ready to face such situation. We can see that it works in other direction as well, because the positions of the Ukrainian army in Avdiivka, for instance, Russians can't pass them for more than 10 years already, because Ukrainian army used the same tactics. There are minefields, there are fortifications with a huge amount of concrete, and there are tunnels which allow to supply the positions with the ammunition, and even with the domination of Russian fighter jets in the air in that direction, because Ukraine doesn't have such powerful anti-air defense systems, and the Russians can use their fighter jets to attack Ukrainian positions near Avdiivka with those huge flying bombs, like 500 with the 500 of kilograms of ultratil in each of these bombs. Even with them, they can't pass the fortified Ukrainian positions in advance, and this is in one very short direction, not on the whole front line. And unfortunately, we gave Russian army enough time to prepare for the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It was announced in advance. It was announced in the end of the last year that it will be Ukrainian counterattack. Russians had enough time to prepare for that. And of course, we had delays in supplying the weapons. We received, for instance, the M1 Abrams tanks just recently from the United States, when they actually can be used on the battlefield because of the rains, and they're pretty heavyweight. And why we received them just recently? Because Germany, for instance, supplied Leopard tanks just quite a long time ago, because they were specially manufactured for Ukraine, because they don't have all the know-how and all the possibilities which the same M1 Abrams tanks in United States Army has, because United States want to keep some technology just away from the battlefield with Russia, in order for them not to get to Russian hands in case these tanks will be destroyed or captured, which is quite possible situation on the battlefield. So because of these reasons, there was a huge delay when we actually received all the weapons which were promised, and luckily we received ATACMS missiles at last, but the opportunity was missed actually. Probably if we had all those weapons in the beginning of the June, when actually the Ukrainian counterattack started, if we got the ATACMS missiles with those cassette warheads during that time, and probably all the tanks, all the heavy vehicles which were promised to us, then probably the result may be other, or may not, because the fortification of Russian positions are pretty tough, and maybe it's not possible to pass them without the heavy support from the sky, without the F-16. So we have another try probably, and another attempt next year, when we will be able to use the F-16 in skies and at least attack using the NATO doctrine, when land troops advance only after the bombing from fighter jets. The rocket artillery strikes were initiated and prepared the battleground for the land attack. And unfortunately, there is no NATO doctrine which says that land troops may advance without any fighter jet support and without any superiority in the sky. And even without support from the sky, Ukrainian land troops managed to advance, make a breach into the Russian defense system on that direction, which I think that is also a great achievement. Not such achievement as we all hoped when we could quickly strike and advance and cut their support line for the Crimea. But anyway, the result is bigger than what it actually could be.
Ivan, I would like to ask you one more question. You mentioned Avdiivka and the Russian attack in that direction. First of all, I can't figure out why Avdiivka is so important for Russians, because they're losing thousands and thousands of their soldiers. I'm watching every day Ukrainian Pravda, and it's almost 1,000 of killed Russians almost every day there. What is it so important for them to spend so much their soldiers' lives to take over Avdiivka, if they will ever take it over? I'm not sure. What do you think?
There are several reasons beside that. First reason is that Avdiivka is actually pretty close to Donetsk, and Donetsk is so-called capital of so-called DNR,
Donbass region.
Donbass, and actually from the Avdiivka region, Ukrainian artillery, just artillery, not even HIMARS, they can strike the downtown of Donetsk and any Russian military objects situated in Donetsk. So it's a key to recapturing Donetsk from that direction as one of the possible scenarios. Another scenario is that Putin made another announcement, and he put, as rumored, he put another goal to his minions, that he wants to capture the whole Donetsk region, beside what they've already captured, by the end of this year. And actually, it's not possible to capture Donetsk region without capturing Avdiivka. But in Avdiivka now we see the same situation that was in Bakhmut last
So
year
he doesn't
when
care how many
uh,
his troops will be killed there. He doesn't care. No?
yeah, it's another meat grinder. They've already lost enormous quantity of armored vehicles and tanks trying to capture it, and now they're using the same tactics, like sending just people like those hordes of zombies to on the Ukrainian fortifications in order to use the tactics which worked in Bakhmut. But in Bakhmut, there was another situation. Those zombie hordes were hordes from Wagner group, and now in Avdiivka, they don't have such a powerful element as Wagner group. So I'm not sure that these tactics will work as well. But they have success in only one thing in eliminating the population of Russia. The speed with which Putin is eliminating Russian population, it's quite amazing. Trying to hit some his ambitious goals or whatever.
I've
And
heard
the quality of the replacements that that Putin throws in, they're not. It's not going to be any higher. They're going to be throwing less capable troops as the casualties continue to increase, and it's just going to be horrific consequences for the Russians after this conflict is over, when it finally does end.
Well, one of the reasons why Russians are fighting so hard in Avdiivka, I've heard the commentary that Putin is doing a cleansing of Russian population, and he sends to Avdiivka all the human genetical garbage, and so he's making remaining Russians much stronger and genetically healthier nation, whereas Ukraine doesn't have that type of human garbage to send to die. So therefore, Putin feels a great advantage in Avdiivka. So he will send all these convicts and all other from jails from elsewhere to die, and that works obviously in his favor. Jonathan, I would like to ask you something. If you will not talk about what's happening today or yesterday on the fronts and line and so on, but we'll take a little bit so-called more rounded view on what's happened a year ago. Is that Ukraine was very successful in liberating Kharkov and Kherson, and okay, so there was a pause for winter. And then there was talk about that there will be an attack against Russians and to free all the territory as early as April, May, but it didn't start neither in April or May because they were training their their armies to be trained in a NATO doctrine, so there would be a separate brigades. There were at one point 8 or 9 brigades, and there was talk that there will be 17 brigades or so on. And finally, on June 4th, I believe, the counterattack started, and we just a few minutes ago talked about why it failed. And it seems to me, all overall, when you look at all that, it's a huge loss of opportunities, both for Ukraine and the West, NATO and the United States. Was it possible to avoid such a scenario?
The only way that one could have avoided that particular scenario is if once we recognized, and this is hindsight, mind you, but once we recognized, if we estimated that we would not be able to supply the forces fast enough in order to be able to achieve that decisive counteroffensive, the objective then would have been a change of objectives to focus more on rather than on a broad counteroffensive in fact, going for a more narrowly focused but potentially still decisive effort in one specific area. And in this case, it would have been focusing strictly on cutting off the Crimea or bombarding the Crimea and the Black Sea Fleet, devoting all of that effort on that area rather than trying to press the offensive. And this is saying it in retrospect, mind you, because we weren't unable to supply Ukraine with the type of weapons it needed to be able to conduct a decisive kind of NATO counteroffensive. Then the only alternative that you could have practiced in hindsight would be to go for a more narrowly focused objective that could still affect the outcome. And again, from my personal perspective, looking at it, the logical alternative would be to focus solely on isolating and bombarding and neutralizing the Crimea.
Excellent. Jonathan, and of course I have to you question as well. You're familiar with the article or interview, rather, of Zaluzhny in The Economist. And Zaluzhny says very simple thing. Look, you have to provide me an objective. What would you like to achieve? Is it exactly to get Russians all from Ukrainian territory? At what period of time? In 1 month? In 1 year? In 5 years? It has to be stated. The goals have to be stated. They have to be achievable. And if you will put me these goals, I will tell you what I need realistically. It's not I need 5,000 ATACMS and 10,000 F-16s and 70,000 submarines or whatever. No, I'll tell you exactly with which arsenal of firepower, the weapons, what I need to achieve certain goal in a certain period of time. When it's not done, when you say, okay, you just go, oh, you attack. Where is the weapons to attack? What do you want me to achieve? I don't understand what I have to achieve under what.
Yeah, in other words, the more decisive the goal, the more decisive the goal that we would be asking Ukraine to achieve, then logically, the greater the amount and speed of weaponry that we would have to supply in order to achieve it. If you are looking at, oh, we just want you to fight a defensive war and just wear the Russians down, yeah, that's doable. It doesn't mean you'd be liberating large parts of Ukrainian territory, but you'd simply be wearing down the Russian capability to wage an offensive until they finally say, okay, they throw in the towel. That's a less aggressive or a less ambitious set of goals, but at the same time, it would not require the West to supply as many advanced weapon systems as quickly as a more decisive political objective would require. So yes, you're right. So you're right in that it has to be Zelensky has to be presented with a clear set of objectives by NATO and the NATO allies and the United States to him to says, okay, this is what we would like for you to do. This is what we want you to be able to achieve. And once he has a clear statement of that, it says, okay, here is what I need in order to achieve that goal. Can we agree on that? And once there is agreement, then it is much more difficult for President Putin to undermine such a goal if there is unity among the allies as to what is to be achieved. Now, if the Ukrainians, for their part, if they are using their initiative and clever planning and continuing to exceed the expectations of what they are doing, Ukraine, for its part, could still achieve, even within that context, some form of decisive operational victory that would cripple the Russian effort to defeat Ukraine. And again, I reemphasize the same thing I've just said several times before. The key is Crimea and the Black Sea. As Ivan's video so clearly pointed out, once you neutralize that source of strength, focus on that, neutralize that source of strength, and you give Ukraine a decisive means for turning the balance of the war in its favor.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Very well.
And I just want to add to Jonathan, and actually in Black Sea, Ukraine is showing great results without any fleet at all. Just remember when Ukraine sunk their flagship, the Moskva cruiser. The Russian submarine was destroyed in the dock. The several battleships were destroyed, and the recent rocket cruiser, which was just built and it was even not added to the Black Sea fleet, was destroyed on the factory. And Russia, the times when Russian warships were near Odessa or Mykolaiv, fighting with the land operation from those ships here, they passed, and they are afraid of coming close to the Ukrainian coast, and even they're afraid to be in Crimea. The Russian Black Sea Fleet is afraid to be stationed in their harbor, main military base in Crimea, and
they're relocating now to Novorossiysk.
Yeah,
And
they
it is a vulnerable
relocated some
it is
ships
a
to
vulnerable
Novorossiysk,
point.
to Feodosia, to other, and they try to distribute them in order for Ukraine not to sunk the remnants of the.
It would be nice if they would relocate to Vladivostok and
Yeah.
Arkhangelsk and somewhere else. I would like to add something. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but hopefully, Ivan, if you will be here on Friday, we have to discuss one very, very important issue. Is Jonathan, you just mentioned that Ukraine is prone to exceed expectations, and you're especially in the Black Sea, it's 100% the case. There's somebody. Well, I can't even say exactly whether he's a politician or journalist or just. Well, he was at one point advisor to Zelensky. His name is Alexei Arestovich. And lately, there are three things happened. One is Simon Schuster's article in Time magazine about Zelensky. Number two, Economist's interview with Zaluzhny. And number three, Arestovich comments on both Time and Economist material, and then his own interpretation, let's put it this way, whether you agree with it or disagree, it's another story, interpretation of what's really happening in Ukraine and why right now there is no, how should I say, there is no harmony between what's happened with the government of Ukraine and the Ukrainian heroic army headed by Zaluzhny. There is a little bit of a disconnect. And one important point what Arestovich is making is that if Ukraine wants to become a part of the West, NATO, European Union, working with the United States or so on, it has to be absolutely honest with their partners about everything and become a team player. Because the army is absolutely 100% absolutely unassailable. The Ukrainian government story is not so clear, let's put it this way. And it has to be somehow resolved. Obviously, there will be no election because of the war situation. So maybe there are some other possible means to do it. So I would like on Friday to discuss more into details these three important developments, because obviously they have a wide auditorium, and not just in Ukraine, but in the West. And there are a lot of discussions in the internet, and not only internet. So we cannot discuss seriously the situation on war, on battle lines in Black Sea area and so on, without understanding first how all these pieces of puzzle can be put together. So in this case, I would like to thank you very, very much for today's program, and looking forward to our program on Friday. Ivan, please find the way to participate.
Okay, I'll try to join. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Thank you.